From above Dar es Salaam's Kariako area, this is Josh Friedman catching what is my final sunset in Dar, as well as my final rooftop view of the skyline, which is off in the other direction. I have a hunch that this Kariako area is not gonna remain looking like this for too long, and the skyline just might expand from the core of the city center to over here as well. But that's just a hunch, although that very much relates to the topic of this video, which is population growth in Dar es Salaam, and particularly as it relates to central planning. I find it interesting that, in a sense or in a couple senses, Dar es Salaam is the mega city that was not supposed to be. If you go back 100 years, give or take, this was a town of 25 or 30,000 people. Now it's 5 million, and it's projected to possibly grow to the size of 75 million by the year 2100, which I've detailed in a separate video. And if you go back to the 19th century, just when this city was getting founded at a slightly different location, actually, I don't remember the exact date, but before this was Dar es Salaam, it was essentially a little fishing village called Mzizima, which is a little difficult to pronounce, but I've been working on it. Mzizima translates from Swahili to English as what I understand to be healthy town, and maybe back then it was nothing more than a healthy sized village, but it grew into a healthy town, or at least an area right nearby grew into a healthy town after the Sultan of Zanzibar started developing this place and gave it the name Dar es Salaam, or House of Peace. But like I said, even in the first half of the 20th century, not many people were living here. The town basically passed from being a project of the Sultan of Zanzibar to being a German colonial location on the east coast of Africa and the western side of the Indian Ocean. And then when the Germans left, it was a British protectorate, or under British control until independence in the 1960s and the unification of the mainland with Zanzibar, which I've touched on in the past and we don't need to get into now. What I want to remark on is that post-reunification, Julius Nyerere, the president of Tanzania, basically did what he could to suppress the growth of Dar, both in terms of population and economic growth. Julius Nyerere really tried to suppress the rise of Dar es Salaam. So as you might be aware, Nyerere moved the capital of Tanzania from here to Dodoma, which didn't so much happen as was happening and is still kind of happening, but the process is pretty complete now. The bureaucracy has almost entirely been moved from here to Dodoma. So Nyerere moved the capital, and also as part of his Ujamaa, which was basically Nyerere's special brand of socialism, a socialism that was very much based on agriculture and rural life. So as part of Ujamaa, Nyerere was encouraging development and the focus of economic growth being in rural areas. He was not encouraging people to come to Dar es Salaam and build a grand financial center and a skyline and a giant shipping hub and whatnot. Nyerere was advocates of people staying in their rural villages and working the land and engaging in his form of socialism. But I would say the central planning didn't work, as the sun beautifully sets behind me, which actually you don't see so well in the picture, but I'm seeing very well. I'd like to take a photo of that, so I'm going to wrap this up momentarily. Anyway, the central planning didn't really work. I guess this might be a little bit better view of the sunset. I had it, lost it, had it. There it is. Yeah, what's been happening? Just rapid urbanization, at least in very recent years. And this city has grown from about 30,000 to 5 million over the past century. And now it's supposed to grow into the tens of millions and possibly reach the size of 3/4, or I should say 75 million people by the beginning of next century. So I think this is a curious case of central planning. I mean, maybe curious case isn't the term. It's just, it frankly seems to me like just a case of central planning not working out, which is very often the case. So there's nothing really curious or unusual about it, at least in my opinion. No more ujamaa in Tanzania. There is quite clearly growth, and there's quite clearly a lot more room for growth, which I've showed you in some vlogs that I've shot while walking around town. All right, thank you very much for joining me on this journey and this time spent in Dar es Salaam. If you haven't already watched my breakdown of this crazy projection of there possibly being 75 million people here in the year 2100, I will link that video in the description below. Asante sana for watching, and goodbye from Dar. With the call to prayer wrapping up and the sun just about completely set in the background, as an addendum, I would like to raise one point, which is that with the failure, at least in my opinion, of the central planning efforts of Nyerere with regard to urbanization and the population of Dar es Salaam, that raises questions for me about whether or not there is going to be considerable central planning in the opposite direction over the course of this century. Central planning in terms of promoting urbanization and trying to centrally plan for the urbanization that's going to be happening, whether it's organic or not, here in Dar es Salaam. Will central planning efforts, if they do occur, either here inside of Tanzania or outside of the country, well, whether there are these central planning efforts to try to organize the city in a manner that keeps things rather manageable, to plan for this huge population growth in a way that there's going to be functioning infrastructure and transport and energy and water, and so on. It's just going to be interesting to see how that gets planned out, and if it does get planned out in a centralized manner, what will be the outcome of that? So that's just a point I'll leave you with. Alright, enough for now. Goodbye.